Good morning. I trust you all well, had a lovely weekend, and ready to tackle this week ahead. We all heard the president's speech last night. Things are still quite hectic in the country. Nonetheless, we move on, and I'm happy that some businesses are allowed to operate. Today's topic, child maintenance amount and international child maintenance. The reason why I chose that topic is specifically because two questions that were posed at our live Zoom webinar on Saturday dealt with these issues, and I dealt with it in the webinar, but I feel it is also important to deal with it again because people do not necessarily understand those two concepts or issues. Therefore, I would like to hopefully be able to enlighten you on that specific topic and issues. For those of you who could not have partaken in the webinar Saturday past, we are having the second webinar, part 2, on the topic child custody and child maintenance and divorce, live Q&A part 2. Please consider registering for it. If you do register and you cannot attend the live Zoom webinar, that's perfectly fine. We obviously send you the video link afterwards. The details while I'm speaking just below my video. So please visit the link www.talalo.co.za/register and join us, and we can learn from that. The format is as follows. When you register, it's free of charge. You are allowed to pose a question, and during the webinar, I will answer that question. If at the same time you would like to comment further, you can unmute your microphone and we can engage with each other. No one can see your photo, your picture, or your camera. So that's fine. You will remain anonymous. And at the same time, you can type during the Zoom webinar and comment further. So it makes it very interactive and we can all learn from that. So thank you for that. Okay, but let's hit today's topic. Child maintenance amount and international maintenance complaints. So two other questions, question 3 and question 4. Both of them were from KwaZulu-Natal. I'll deal with question 3 first. It went as follows, and this is where I copied and pasted the question as given. I never made any amendments to it. Can the father change the maintenance amount according to his own calculations to exclude things he thinks is not needed, like exclude the nanny fees, even though I need her because I work? Now, maintenance, we all know, gets paid according to your means, and it must be a fair amount. It does not necessarily mean that each party should pay a proportion of each expense as is. For example, the school fees might be, let's say, 100 Rand, and the nanny fees is 100 Rand. It does not mean the father must give the mother 50 Rand. Specifically, this is for the nanny, and 50 Rand, this is now for the school fees. He can say, okay, I'll do the following. I will just pay all the nanny's fees of 100 Rand and you attend to the school fees. That applies, obviously, if the parties earn the same amount of money and the child cost basically the same, should they be having shared care, residency, and so on. But where I'm going to with this principle is that maintenance is paid according to your means and proportionate according to your income, of course, respective to the needs of the child. Therefore, you do not pay for expenses that the child does not incur, and you do not pay for expenditure which would mean that the other party is not adequately supporting the child as well. So if I look at a specific example, the mother is working, that's perfectly fine. She does not assist us in telling us what contribution is she making towards a nanny or what contribution she's making towards the other expenditures of the minor child. But let me assist you regarding this. I'm just using this as an example, not here to specifically unpack and put facts into the specific scenario. However, when deciding whether or not you, for example, in our scenario here, as a father, should be paying towards something, the ultimate aim would be to pay your respective portion of the child's needs. I hope you understand where I'm going to. So if it means the child costs R1,000 per month, and ultimately how you work out your calculations, for example, stipulating I'm paying for all the school fees, but I'm not paying for the nanny, but I'm also paying towards the child extra expenditure. So I'm not paying for food, clothing, accommodation. And I believe that is fair under the circumstances because it's a big amount of money and the mother also works, she earns a very good salary and she can attend to the following items. So therefore it's not necessary to specifically pay half of every single item as long as at the end of the day you are paying a fair contribution towards the minor child's expenditure. So, for example, if the mother pays all the school fees and you pay all the extracurricular activities, you pay, for example, the child's clothing, and the mother pays for the child's living expenditure. And at the end of the day, it's proportionate to the parties' means, what they can afford, and what the child's needs are. That is perfectly fine. So the question goes, can the father change the maintenance amount according to his own calculations to exclude things he thinks is not needed, like exclude the nanny fees, even though I need her because I work? Okay, the nanny is obviously required. The mother has to go to work, so there is a nanny's fees. If the father feels it's not reasonable and not justified, okay, he done that, that's fine. However, if you feel that the father is being unreasonable and he should have been paying a contribution towards the nanny fees, obviously under those circumstances, there's a dispute, there's a complaint on your side, you need to have this matter resolved at the maintenance court. The maintenance court will determine whether or not the nanny is necessary, if it's reasonable and justifiable under the circumstances. The father's argument might be, but the nanny, the child is 17 years old. I mean, the nanny only looks after the child for 2 hours. Why must he pay for the entire nanny cost if the nanny does nothing for the rest of the day? Or she cleans the household for the mother. She does the mother's washing, ironing, cooking, and cleaning for argument's sake. And that's what the nanny contract says she should be doing. Now, why must the father be contributing towards that? As opposed to a child being very young, that could be something else. The child might be in daycare for the entire day, and all of a sudden, only for an hour or two, as I mentioned early on, the nanny gets involved. So why must the father pay towards that to make the mother's life easier? I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. There's a dispute. So a third party, like the maintenance court, needs to get involved, and they have to listen to both sides of the story. The mother's argument will be clearly, the child needs to have a nanny. The nanny assists him with schoolwork. I'm at work. I cannot attend to the child. So I'm arguing on behalf of both sides. I hope that answers the first question a bit further regarding how to work out the maintenance amount. And if I have not, you're always welcome to leave a comment on Facebook Live and I would look at that. Let us deal with the second question, which I received during the webinar, which we dealt with a bit and which I want to deal with a bit further today. Question number 2 from KwaZulu-Natal. Question number 4, but the second question today from KwaZulu-Natal. How do I find my ex-husband who has immigrated? I would presume it meant immigrated to New Zealand. He has defaulted in child maintenance. I, like many other parents, feels exhausted and the justice system does not help either. Now, very sad question, because here we have a scenario where the father left the country, he went to New Zealand, the mother does not know where he is. What does she do? And as I mentioned in the webinar, it's become challenging here because New Zealand is a country on its own, it's sovereign. South African court has no power over another country's jurisdiction, the same way as New Zealand doesn't have any power over our courts. The New Zealand authority can't say, arrest that person, who gives them the right? They're not paying our salaries and our government is not working for them. Countries are sovereign, they're not, one country cannot dictate to another country how to run their affairs, and so on. I think you follow where I'm going. Now, regarding child maintenance, there's something called the Reciprocal Enforcement of Maintenance Orders Act. Based upon that act, South Africa and various other countries entered into agreements whereby they will assist each other regarding the enforcement of child maintenance. I do not know if New Zealand and South Africa has that agreement. I'm here to give a general answer because tomorrow someone might ask me for China, Hong Kong, China, Italy, the United States, the United Kingdom, Brazil, all those specific countries. So I'm giving you the formula on how to determine that. On the Department of Justice website, there is a list of countries where South Africa has an agreement with. If New Zealand falls under that, wonderful. If New Zealand is a signatory to that specific agreement, the Pacific parent here can lay a complaint at the local maintenance courts and they will, via diplomatical channels, escalate it all the way to the Office of the Family Advocate, and then to New Zealand, and the authorities will on that side do what they have to do. Maybe find where the father is, search him on the database, etc., and they'll do an inquiry that side. They'll finalize it that side, and they'll send it back down to South Africa, and there will be some type of assistance between the countries for the parties to obtain child maintenance internationally. So I hope that answers that specific question. If we do not have an agreement with New Zealand, there's no reciprocal enforcement. Unfortunately, I do not know what you could do in New Zealand where that is specifically applicable. Of course, you can potentially get an attorney in New Zealand to possibly maybe subpoena the person that side, or whatever the case may be. Depends on the New Zealand law. However, if the party here, under these circumstances, the father has assets and has property in South Africa, then obviously that specific property and assets can be attached and you can use that as child maintenance. If his parents are living here, wonderful, you can claim maintenance from them as well. So that is also possible. I hope I have clarified those two questions, and we are all more educated today regarding the aspect of child maintenance, regarding the issue of parties not being able to come to an agreement. Obviously, they should try to come to an agreement, but if they cannot, unfortunately, we need to go to court, and the court will make a decision. And regarding international child maintenance, yes, it's possible with countries whereby we have international agreements with. However, if there is no international agreement, you have to look at other specific legal remedies. Maybe the country has some internal remedies applicable. I know I had one client in the past whereby she's South African and the father, I think, in the United States, and had she have complained to the employer would have obviously had serious problems with the specific employee for not paying child support. So there are other creative ways and means which you can apply in order to receive maintenance from the other party. Alternatively, if the party has assets in South Africa, you can attach those specific assets. Thank you very much, and please join our live webinar this Saturday. It is interactive. You're welcome to post questions. I spend an adequate amount of time on the question. I try my best to do that, and you're welcome to engage further, as I mentioned early on, by unmuting your microphone and engaging with me for a few moments, and we can try to give you a better answer. Alternatively, you can type it out on the chat on Zoom. Please register as soon as you can. There is a limit of 100 participants. However, if you're not available this Saturday, please still pose your question, register, and later on, a few days later, you'll get a video link whereby we dealt with your specific question. I hope you have a lovely day, and we shall see each other soon.